Hey, sweetie, it's time for your bedtime story. Where should we travel to today? What about old castles and cathedrals in France? Yes, Mommy. Let's go. Once upon a time, on a faraway island called Isla de la Cité, there was a very tall and beautiful cathedral called Notre Dame, also known as Our Lady of Paris. Mom, how did they make sure it wouldn't fall apart? Well, they used different types of stone and wood structures. For example, pointed arches, which may have been adapted from Islamic architecture. To relieve the stress and thrust of structural elements, pointed arches distributed the weight, which also led to the development of slimmer columns. The weight of this big building was also supported by flying buttresses. These structures supported the lateral thrust of the building. Does the height of the building have anything to do with power? Well, yes it does. In order to keep balance and not seem overpowering, upper levels of the nave would also be built with slim columns, and this would continue up the roof and become part of the vault. At the vault, the pointed arch could be seen in 3 dimensions. That's so cool. I bet it was very dark inside the cathedral, since many parts of it are made from wood and stone. Not quite. With structures like the pointed arch and slim columns, it allowed for larger windows and stained glass to be incorporated in the design of the cathedral. The rose window inside Notre Dame is one of the biggest glass windows in the world, produced in the 13th century. Almost every surface inside the cathedral was decorated with some sort of design or pattern. I'd love to stay in a cathedral all day. I bet I would be fascinated with all the different elements inside. Many kings would actually display sculptures of them inside the cathedral. After the French Revolution, many of the sculptures were destroyed and decapitated. Luckily, they found one, which was the head of King David. It was found near the West Facade, where themes of the early life of Jesus would also be found. And we think this might be since King David was regarded as an ancestor of the Jews. Was his face messed up? Was it ugly? Well, you could say that. His face was partly destroyed. But you can tell that his face was empathetic when the eyes were inlaid with lead. The sculpture was made from limestone that was light and fine grained, allowing us to see all his features. It was also made in Paris around 1145. Mom, what does the cathedral represent? The cathedral wasn't just the center of essential inventions of Gothic architecture. It reflected the stability of the age as well as the power of the Christian Church. It was considered as a miniature symbol of God's universe. Oh, I think I understand now. The structure of the cathedral reflected clarity and rationality, and columns, stained glass, and murals and other sculptures reflected scriptural messages of the Bible? Exactly. Gothic cathedrals dominated the town through its religious, economic, and political influence. It was seen as a center of culture with episcopal schools, which are schools taught by bishops, and even provided work for many town dwellers. It's amazing how one building can have so much significance. Mom, in the beginning, you said how the Notre Dame Cathedral was known as Our Lady of Paris. Why is that? Well, a young peasant girl, Joan of Arc, who was very brave and had strong spiritual character, claimed to see visions from God. With her visions and bravery, she helped France in many battles against the English. It was because of her support of the monarchy that Charles was crowned. Sadly, after being captured by the Burgundians, she was burned at the stake for accusations of heresy. It was only after her death that she was found innocent and then was beatified, or in other words, sent to heaven at Notre Dame Cathedral. That is why it is known as Our Lady of Paris. When I grow up, I hope to be as brave as her. I still can't get over my fear of spiders. Very well then. How about you go to bed now? No, Mommy, just one more story. Just one more, please. Okay, fine. What do you say if we talk about a castle? Yay! In the same faraway land, there was a castle called Vincennes. The castle was not small. It was like a fortified city where several hundred people lived, including the royal family. Being inside of the walled circuit and the 9 giant towers meant protection. There was a moat around the castle used for protection as well. Throughout the years, a gatehouse, a courtyard, and a chapel were also added. Also, machines of war were installed in the roof years later. How was all of that built? Well, it took several hundreds of years. They used a central pillar that rises through each floor. These pillars are very strong because they have to carry a huge weight. In the second and third floors are 8 diagonal and medial arches extending across the width of the building and helping to buttress the center column with the help of supportive iron rods. Why doesn't this sound like the castles mentioned in fairy tales? How come this castle's like a fortress? It was built this way because the king, Charles, wanted to restore the trust of their people in the monarchy. For that reason, he ordered the building of this towered enceinte that could hold hundreds of people. In this way, he could demonstrate the power of the royal government. Additionally, King Charles insisted that all castles should be properly manned, made not only structurally effective, but also ensured that they were provided with adequate supplies and weaponry. Walls were heightened, moats were added, and parapets became a common feature in order to show the monarchy's power in France to its people. I think all these stories of churches and castles had made me sleepy. I might dream with kings, queens, and knights. Good night, Mommy. Good night, my little traveler.